Good. Start by opening your hood. I like to go ahead and identify the oil dipstick tube. I'm going to pull this out. I'm going to go ahead and wipe this down. Then I set this right across the top. The reason why I leave the oil dipstick here is that way there, once the vehicle comes back down on the ground, if you get distracted and you forget to add oil to the engine, well, you're going to have a seized up engine. This way here, if you look back and you see the oil dipstick left out, it should be a visual reminder, hey, I need to at least put that back in and check it, or go ahead and add your filter. Let's go ahead and move to the bottom of the engine. From underneath, you want to go ahead and locate your oil pan and locate your drain plug right here. We're going to use a 15mm socket with our ratchet. And we're going to loosen this bolt. Have your catch can underneath. You should anticipate about 4.5 to 5 quarts of oil to come out. It's always good to be wearing gloves when doing this and safety glasses to prevent any splash from getting all over you. You push inward a little bit as you're unscrewing the drain bolt. Once you feel that bolt is loose, go ahead and pull that plug and drain that oil. Now at this point here, our oil is pretty much drained. We're going to throw our bolt in loosely and clean up the bottom of our oil pan with a little bit of solvent. Going to clean this up while we have our catch can underneath. Just going to give this a wipe down. The reason why we put that drain plug back in there loosely is we don't want to get solvent in the oil or in the oil pan. With that clean, and go ahead and spin that bolt back out. Now with our oil still coming or dribbling out of our drain plug here, we're going to go ahead and locate our oil filter, which is up here, which is forward of the oil pan. And we're going to use our adjustable oil pan or oil filter tool here with our ratchet. I'm going to put that up in there. And this will grab the tabs on the oil filter. Let's go ahead and loosen this. And keep in mind, an oil filter should never be this tight. This is on very tight. Once you get it to the point where it is able to be unthreaded by hand, go ahead and do that. Spin that and you'll see some oil dribbling out because that filter has oil in it as well. We'll let that drain a little bit. And when you pull this down, it will be filled with oil. So be ready to put that into a bucket and flip it upside down to let that oil drain out. What you want to do is go ahead and take a rag or a towel, inspect and clean the surface of where your oil filter would go. The old oil filter will have an O-ring on it. So you want to make sure that the old O-ring did not pull off of the oil filter and stick to the engine. Ours is good and clean. Let's go ahead and grab our new filter and put that on. So what we're going to do is we're going to pre-charge our oil filter. We can do this because our filter faces upward. What we're going to do is take our engine oil and go ahead and fill up the filter. And what this will do is it actually prevents a delay of oil cycling through and takes it oil right from the filter and pumps it right into the engine once you have that first strike of that ignition key. And we'll let that burp down for a couple seconds here. And it looks like we're pretty much filled up, so let's go ahead and thread this onto the engine. Now that we have our oil filter filled up, we're going to go ahead and take some of this oil and put a little bit on the seal itself. That'll help and make a nice tight seal and also help it slip on when we're tightening that down. Let's go ahead and install our oil filter. Line that up with the threads. Get it started by hand. Once you feel that thread on, go ahead and spin it all the way up. And you should be able to go ahead and tighten this by hand. Once you feel that oil filter snug down, you want to make sure you can spin that about 3/4 of a turn. Make sure it's nice and tight on there. There we go. And when installing your drain plug, you want to make sure that you have a new seal on there. Give this a wipe, get the plug started in, and thread that in as far as you can by hand. I want to go ahead and just snug that down. You'll feel it bottom out. Use a rag, wipe down any residual oil here. You want to go ahead and torque that drain plug down to 19 foot-pounds. You want to go ahead and locate your oil fill cap here. Go ahead and unscrew that. Oil fill caps will have an oil type of identification. This requires 5W30, so you want to go ahead and acquire that 5W30 for this engine. Now we removed our oil fill cap for this here. It actually has an oil fill cap with a fill tube here. So what we do is we removed the fill cap, put a little bit of oil on our O-ring here, and we're going to reinstall this down inside. It'll pop into place, and go ahead and twist that in, and it'll stop and lock in. That way there, you can now take your funnel and install your funnel. And at this point here, we can go ahead and start adding our oil. This particular vehicle requires 4 quarts of oil. We did add some oil to the oil filter, so we're going to continue with the remainder of the oil from this quart. And we'll add 3 more and we'll check it. All right, we have a total of 4 quarts now currently in the engine. So what we'll do is we'll remove our funnel. We'll install our oil cap here. We're going to install our dipstick. Now what you want to do is go ahead and start up the vehicle, let it run for about 30 seconds. Then you can go ahead and shut it down, and we're going to come back and we're going to check out our oil level. Now if you start up the car, let it run for about 30 seconds or so, shut it back down, come back underneath the hood, grab your oil dipstick. The first time you pull it out, you're going to want to go ahead and wipe it down. The reason is you're going to have some oil splash on this here, and the oil might be reading all the way up here. You let that oil set for a couple of minutes, put that back in, pull this back out, and you want to check the level on your dipstick. There should be a marking, cross-hatching, and you want to be at the high point. On this here we have 4 dots. We want to be at the high point, and we are right on that. So our oil level is perfect. You're all set. Go ahead and close your hood and button it up.